Joining this call. Today we will be talking about Websphere portal and we have with us Sanjeev. Sanjeev has about 10 years of experience in Websphere portal, and he will be talking about new features in Websphere portal. So I will now toss it to Sanjeev, and then I think and after this call, I mean, we will have a quick, Q&A sessions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to pass it on. Okay, so Sanjeev, I will transfer it to you. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Max. Hi, my name is Sanjeev. I'm a solution architect with Royal Cyber. And today's webinar is about trick of the trade, developing client-side centric applications using IBM Portal. Um, so today's agenda is we will be going through introduction and company overview, the client-side centric, what that means, challenges in developing client-side centric applications, why do you want to develop client-side centric portlets or iWidgets in IBM Portal? Tools to facilitate the development, debugging CSS apps, client-side logging, what that means, and how do you do that? Performance and performance tools. These are the today's agenda that I will be going through, and we will have a Q&A session if you have any questions around it. So, company overview is we are based out of Chicago. We are an IBM business partner, and we cater our clients on IBM Portal and other IBM products like IBM Worklight. Um, and we have been in the business since 2002, and we're globally, we have a global presence. As you can see, we are based we are headquartered in Chicago, but we have offices in UK, South Asia, uh, Middle East, South Africa, and Australia. So, jumping to client side centric, what that means. So, client-side centric applications has mostly to do with user interfaces. What I mean by that is the idea of doing a data binding with the UI components. So, upon runtime, you can bind the content from the backend, the data from the backend to your UI components. That is essentially what is called data binding. Client-side centric apps main tasks are to validate inputs, animations, manipulating UI elements, applying styles, heavy usage of AJAX. So, in terms of knowledge required, you have JavaScripts, you have CSS, you have to understand HTML and HTML5, basic graphics information, JavaScript framework like Dojo, jQuery, UI design, and also data information design. So these are the basic knowledge that a developer would require in order for you to write client-side centric applications specifically in IBM Portal and IBM Portlets. So jumping to what the challenges are. So client-side centric application is the cutting edge to writing apps in terms of portlets and iWidgets. So it comes with its own set of problems. Some of the problems that you have to think about and encounter and try to overcome are browser performance, network performance, JavaScript knowledge, JavaScript performance, AJAX knowledge, DOM manipulation. So the DOM manipulation is very important, and it is a very challenging aspect to writing a CSC application. DOM overload or leaks. When you create an object on the DOM, and when you flush the object out, or delete the object out, and how you properly clean that object, which prevents leaking of the object. It's very similar to memory leaks, but in the DOM, which is also called DOM overload. And the last aspect is overdoing. Some developers want to give the wow effect, and in the process of giving the wow effect, they lose out some of the most important elements of the application, or they inject a lot of bugs into it. So this is some of the, some this is one of the biggest challenge that you have, from a governance standpoint, that you have to think about when you write when you are in the in the process of developing a client centric application. So one of the biggest question is why develop CSC portlets and iWidgets in IBM Portal. And there are various reasons why CSC portlets or iWidgets are needed to be developed in IBM Portal. Some of the reasons are to compete with other development tools like Flex, need for not refreshing the entire page when interacting with a portlet and iWidget. So some of our clients have this request where, in order to compete with products like development tools like Flex, the entire portal page should not be refreshed. Only certain sections of the page should be refreshed, which is also called partial rendering or partial submissions. So this is one of the things that you have to think about when you're writing when you're creating a CSC portlet. um, uh, the reason why you want to create a CSC portlet is also so that your application, your portlets or your iWidgets are fast and have a snappy interaction. So this should be very fast, and the content should be delivered very quickly and in a in a meaningful way. That leads to exceptional experience. The user gets the user gets exactly what he or she wants in a very concise time. So that attributes to exceptional user experience. Also align with portal best practices. So if you go back to the history of IBM Portal and start off with Portal 5, it started with a bunch of GSPs and servlets. 6 moved into more of an MVC design pattern with GSR 168 286. I'm sorry, GSR 168. In 615 and 7 and 8, you move into GSR 286. So there are more standards around portlet development. And so the next step in the process of best practices and standards are to create CSC portlets, the client side portlets, and use some of the capabilities that is out of the box from Portal, such as the Websphere feature packs, Web 2.0 feature, to dynamically convert your objects from Java beans to a JSON or vice versa. So these are all part of these are all part of how you align with Portal best practices and how you think about the roadmap that Portal has to offer from IBM standpoint. The other aspect to why you should also develop CSC portlets is that it is lightweight architecture. So if you're looking at all the content rendering as well as content manipulations are done on the browser side, and that makes the server a little less heavy and less stressful. So it attributes to a lightweight architecture where you have UI and the backend very distinctly decoupled with the specific roles and responsibilities for each of the layers. So you have to make sure this is why it attributes to a lightweight architecture. Uh, Tools to facilitate the development. So basically, if you are back if you have been developing in IBM space and using the rational tools, you typically start off, if you are developing a portlet, is you typically start off with the RSA or RAD 8.5 version. RSA stands for Rational Software Architect, and RAD stands for Rational Application Developer. um, GSR 286 portlet API is typically used to create the portlets. Um, Asynchronous JavaScript and XML AJAX is used to interact with the backend in an asynchronous way. REST-based services, also called JAX RS, is used for creating services in the backend that you can consume through HTTP protocol, HTTP or HTTPS protocol. And RPC Adapter .jar, which is a jar that comes with a Websphere feature pack Web 2.0, and you use RPC Adapter .jar to convert a Java bean to JSON and vice versa dynamically. So upon runtime, if you pass an object, a Java object, it converts it into a JSON. So the conversion, you don't have to go through the process of manually converting the Java object into JSON and vice versa. Debugging apps. What are the tools that are out there in the market? How do you debug it? These are all aspects of what we call debugging CSC apps. So let me first talk to you about why debugging is so critical. So debugging becomes really critical when working on client side centric portlets. So and the reason is, if you don't have a proper debugging tool and application code, you have to be in the place for quick identification of the problem and resolving the issues. So one of the experiences that we as World Cyber have is, we we write very slick portlets, but what happens is, after we write the portlets, when you come to when we have to debug, the portlets, we spend a lot of time in the UI to figure out where the problem is, whether it's in the UI or in the backend. So having debugging tools, proper debugging tools, is very important in terms of resolving the problems, resolving the issues and problems, and also saving time. Using browsers provided developer tool like Firebug and IE Developer Toolkit, issues can be identified upon runtime and resolved. So, um, if you are a UI person, I'm sure you have used Firebug, which is very the number one used tool in the open market right now, and IE Developer Toolkit for IE issues. Firebug Firebug allows for also simulating different results by passing different parameters on runtime. Providing console logs, developers can figure out where the issue may lie. Also, creating a client-side logging framework for easy debug. So, there are various ways to debugging the client-side centric portlets. Um, you typically use in a normal scenario, you use Firebug and IE Developer Toolkit. But if you want to have a robust debugging tool, you create a client side logging framework that allows to log your console log into your server log, so that you can easily audit that log and figure out where the problem lies. That leads me to client-side logging, why it is important, right? What is the need for client-side logging? So the need for client-side logging has been very important due to
So
the rapid.
I think, yeah, Sanjeev, I think let's take like 5 minutes and just ask their main audience if they have any questions. So Surya, Sudarshan, if you have any questions so far, please feel free to jump in. Surya or Sudarshan, if you have any question, Prince, anything. Okay. If not, then
All right, so Mas, let me continue. So, need for client-side logging has been, it has been very important due to rapid emergence of client-heavy applications. Um, when I say client-heavy applications, I mean, a lot due to the emergence of JavaScript frameworks. A lot of customers nowadays, applications are being built with UI heavy elements. So that leads to having a proper debugging tool and application code, so that the problems can be identified and resolved. And using sorry there you go. All right, so client side logging framework. So what that is, right? So um, uh, at, what client side logging does, as you can see from this code base, you have a client, a framework logger dot client log info. What it captures is two elements, a key and a value. The key attributes to the key value pair attributes to the information that gets logged in the server side. So um so when uh, when when I'm talking about client FW logger, it's a logging framework that captures all the log levels based on a set value in the was. So the uh, the beauty of client side logging, what you have to understand is, in order can you go can somebody go on mute, please? I it is very I get hear a lot of static in the back end. Can you hear me? Can you please go on mute? Okay. Client side logging framework is a JavaScript driven framework that allows you to capture the console logs and log it into your server side. So as you can see from this chart here, the client fw logger dot client log info, the client log info function passes two parameters, a key and a value. The key value pair gets passed through a AJAX call when the DOM loads into the server side. So on the right hand side, what you see is a servlet that captures, based on the log level. It captures the information such as IP address, user ID, session ID, transaction code, the log message, and logs it into the backend. So when there's a problem, you enable the was log level, and the log level gets read by the client side logging framework, and it logs the information appropriately. So if the log level is set to trace, the information will be logged as trace content, as trace content. If it's debug, then it gets logged as debug. So this is a very robust way to pass the console information, which up to now you can only do it with Firebug or IE Toolkit. Uh, but now you can actually use a client-side logging framework and be able to capture that information on the backend. So this allows you to do a good auditing on your log level. It allows you to understand where the problems are without actually going through it through real time. You can simply look at the log files on the backend, on the server log, and you can see that information and be able to because it has a key value pair. You can specifically say where that problem is coming from, which function it is coming from. So it is very transparent. It is very easy to debug, and it saves you a lot of time. So this is why you should be using something like a client-side logging framework to allow your application to mature, to allow your application to be a little more easier to debug, and try to figure out these issues very quickly. So performance, like I mentioned before, performance is very important. Um, and from a performance standpoint, some of the items that you have to think about are AJAX performance, JavaScript performance, network performance, browser performance, right? These are the four elements that you have to think about. So AJAX performance, what that is, right? So the packets transferred as JSON encoded text should be as small as possible. So as you know, when you are doing when you are writing a client centric framework, the architecture is you have a portlet, and the portlet communicates with the backend through through Ajax, and the payload is a JSON payload, right? So if when you are working with data in terms of JSON payload, the packets transferred as JSON encoded text should be as small as possible. The reason I say it should be small as possible because um, two reasons. One is since it's going through an HTTP protocol, and HTTP can depend on your network speed, your bandwidth. It is very good that keep the data to the minimum as possible, so that you can really have a good performance throughput from it. Second thing is when the data is small, then because it's an asynchronous call, you can have multiple calls for the same content, and chunk it out into different segments. Then those information can be passed back to the UI as instead of one asynchronous call, multiple asynchronous calls. So it is a less overhead to the bandwidth. It's a less overhead to the HTTP pipe, and it's a less overhead from a maintenance standpoint. That is the reason why you have to have the packets to a small as small to a small size as possible. The other aspect is application should be constructed as a conversation between the browser and the server, in which the two halves communicate in a expressive shared language. So what that means is your applications, when you have a communications between your browser and the server, there has to be a strong layer of communication, a very good blueprint of communication between the browser and the server. What that allows you to do is you know exactly what the data is going to be passed to the UI, and the UI knows exactly how to parse that data. So the handshake or the communication channel between the two layers has to be very concise. The Ajax loop should be small. That is, the data content should be as small as possible, so it reduces the latency problem. So it goes back to point one, which I'm trying to which I made is because when you make the packet as small as possible, the Ajax loop also becomes small. Hence, it reduces the latency problem that you typically see when you have a network fluctuation. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, moving on. JavaScript performance. So some of the things that you have to think about in terms of JavaScript performance is use of local variable. As you know, if you are a JavaScript developer, you know that local variables are much faster. It is the fastest identifiers both to read from and write to. So it's very advisable that you use local variables. Uh, Efficient data access, that is where data is stored in a script, contributes directly to the amount of time it takes to execute. Uh, there are four places from where the data can be accessed, which are a literal value, a variable, array, items, and object property. literal value being the fastest and object property being the slowest. Flow control to determine which part of the code to execute. So you have to make sure that you know what which code is getting executed first and which code is getting executed later. This is a common problem, so yeah, which impedes your performance. So you have to make sure that the flow of the flow control has to be maintained in the code execution. Any questions so far? Okay. And network performance. So some of the elements of network performance that you have to think about is z-zipping using except encoding, which is basically you are going beyond just just zipping a file. It's also your z which is called z-zipping, and also wrapping that with accept encoding, which allows for faster of the network, so that the network can read the information very quickly. Optimizing images. Some of the aspect of optimizing images are to uh, to um, to use different images based on the size of the network, to cache the images on the HTTP server. These are all contributing factors to network performance. The other aspect that a lot of people don't understand is also called sharding dominant domains, which is the techniques for successfully splitting resources across multiple domains. So what I mean by that is you can have you can have your images living in a different domain. You can have your HTML markups living in a different domain. What this allows you to this is this is an extreme way of making sure that you have a performance to the highest level. But it also allows you to better structure your code base based on what that is. The other aspect to network performance is also flushing the document early. So if you flush the document, what that allows you to do is it allows you to redo your your call, which has which creates a smaller DOM load, and if you have a smaller DOM load, it prevents the DOM leaks and other problems with network, which contributes to network performance. Browser the other aspect is browser performance, which is and there are a couple of items in the browser performance. One is using iframes sparingly. So if you're a portal developer, you'll hear that iframes should not be used, um, and it's not a very good implementation. It's a patch around integration. In reality, if you use iframes to a certain degree, which is very sparingly, then it really helps you to create nice apps which have better performance around browsers. So iframes, if you use iframes heavily, it really causes your browser to crash and other browser performance issues that comes up. Simplifying CSS selectors. So one of the things that a lot of developers fail to understand is when the compiler reads the CSS, it reads from right to left. So you have to make sure that your CSS selectors have to be very concise, because the compiler reads the CSS selector from right to left. So these are the two aspects of browser performance. We can go up very deep into CSS selectors, and we don't have that much time to actually do a deep dive into CSS selectors. But CSS selector is very important, and it really contributes to browser performance. If CSS selectors are not implemented correctly and it is very complex, that leads to browser performance. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on. Performance tools. So from our experience at Lower Cyber, we have used a lot of performance tools. Some of the tools that help has helped us in the past to develop portlets and test them and debug them are HTTP Watch, Firebug, Net Panel. So you can download that. When you download Firebug, the net panel is not enabled by default, so you enable that and it gives you a list of all the information on it. The AOL page test is another one. It used to be pretty heavy, really used before, but it's kind of died down because of Firebug now. VRTA from Microsoft is, it's not an open source, but it allows you, and you have to pay for it, but it's a very powerful tool to do performance testing. IBM Page Detailer is another one. It allows you to do the same things, but not um, as complex or as detailed as like Warshark, for example. Web Inspector resource panels. This is another performance tool that you can use. Fiddler is another one that's very common in the market right now. Charles is for network packets, to test the network packets, and Wireshark is another one. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on. Um, any questions or comments? If anyone has any questions on the webinar. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being in this conference today. This webinar today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me directly. But Mass, any? Do you have any questions? All right. Thank you all for joining the webinar today. Like I mentioned, if you have any questions, please email me directly. And thanks for taking the time today to be on the call. Thank you.